Hey, we've got a really good, exciting podcast here. Weeks and months left in me, okay? I don't want them to just be flying by so fast. That's frightening. We got a couple of good things to talk about tonight. I want to be talking to, we got Steve Kraus on the phone. We're going to be talking to him about House District 89 and what took place out there. And was it rigged? We'll talk about that. And at around 7:30 or so, interesting, I got Rob Dinteman. He's a lawyer, and he is representing citizens out in Commercial Point, which is in Pickaway County. And they're trying to stop the data center there. And we're going to go into that. It's really a fascinating story, the intricacies with that. So we'll be doing that. Now, we got to talk property taxes and all that kind of stuff, too. You were out at the fair, right?
Yeah, well, we've been to several fairs. Ashtabula Fair was a big one for us. We thank John Gennard and George Valenti and our Christian brother Leonard Gilbert out there for collecting. I think they said they got 400 or 500 signatures out at the Ashtabula Fair, and
excellent.
So
excellent.
That's great. And we try to get John Gennard went to the Republican booth, and he tried to get David Thomas, Representative David Thomas, and the other Republicans to sign the petition. And they ran away from John like he had the plague.
So Dave Thomas has not signed it, correct?
No. He can't sign he cannot sign that because Speaker Rob McCauley Matt Halfman would have him on the back bench, and his career would be over. So. He can't sign it, and David is a nice young man, and I think he is one of the patriots that'll be the future of Ohio.
Right, he's the future of Ohio. He's an up-and-coming star with the Republican Party. I like Dave, too, and he's the only real state representative who has come up with ideas and at least some mechanisms to try to chop away at property taxes.
Well, there's a reason for that, Joe. There's a reason for that, and the reason is he's one of the half a dozen representatives that even understands the property tax. See, all these guys, they don't understand inside, outside millage. They just vote on it because Huffman tells them to vote on it. They don't understand it.
Yeah, well, I've got news for you. I don't even understand it. And I've been talking to you for years. I still don't understand inside millage. I still don't understand 20 mill floor. And I don't want to understand it, and I don't care about it because it's just been put in there to confuse the crap out of us. I know this much. I'm smart enough to know that I am paying twice, 3 times what I should be paying in property taxes, and something's got to get done. I'm smart enough to know that. I want to get Steve Kraus on here. Steve, say hello. So you're out there. You ran as a state representative for District 89 a number of years ago. How many years ago was that?
That was 12 years ago. And hi, everybody, and thanks for coming to the podcast tonight. 12 years ago in 2014, I ran a race I didn't want to, and I beat somebody I wasn't supposed to. And all hell down in Columbus broke because I defeated the chairman of the Ohio Democrat Party and the 11-year incumbent state representative, Chris Redford.
Okay, so that was 12 years ago. So I got you on the phone because we've always had trouble with the Zoom call, and that's fine. So I'm gonna get into you and everything here in a minute. But I want to just give everybody the background story here of House District 89, what took place. It's very interesting. So here's the gist of it from what I've got. Now, DJ Swearingen is the current. He's the current state rep in District 89. He's the current state rep. Now, he got a government job, so he had to give up and have somebody else be on the ballot because the deadline is already passed. But there is a deadline. It was last week for the Board of Elections. If the Republican Party doesn't say definitively who is going to be the representative for District 89, then his name, DJ Swearingen's name would be listed, but he's not running, so we would lose. We'd automatically lose. So this was important. Now, they had to pick somebody. Now, here's where all the controversy comes in. First of all, DJ Swearingen didn't give everybody but 6 days' notice. He gave everybody a 6-day notice that he was getting another position. So now they had to pick somebody in that window. All right? So he let everybody know on Tuesday of last week or whatever, and the deadline was the following Monday at 4 o'clock. You had to be at the Board of Elections in Erie County, and whoever was the person that they picked, you'd have to fill out the paperwork and everything. Okay, that's the background there. Now, in order to pick somebody, there was only 6 people that were allowed to pick the replacement, and that was the chairman and the secretary for each of the 3 counties involved in District 89, which is Erie County, Ottawa County, and Huron County. So you have the chairman and the secretary of each of those counties, those 6 people only, and then they get to pick whose name is going to be on the November ballot running for the Republican Party. All right, so far so good, right? Everything I said so far, Steve, matches up with what happened so far?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. All right, so that's where we're at. Now, here's the sticking point we got to get to. One of the candidates who's was put his name in to be the replacement is the chairman for Erie County, Caleb Stidham. Caleb Stidham is also the chairman, and he's voting. He's one of the 6 people voting. So he threw his name in. And then his secretary, who he's really good friends with, and she might take over the county treasurer position if he moves on and all this other stuff. So she's voting for him. So he's got two of the votes right off the bat. Okay, 2 of the 6 votes. He's got them. He's got it nailed down. Here's the other thing. He didn't give you guys a whole lot of time, because the meeting, and he sets the meeting because he's in the most populous county. He set it for Monday at 1 o'clock. The deadline is Monday at 6 p.m., right?
No, it was 4.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. So the meeting was at 1 o'clock, right? And then the deadline to submit the paperwork for everybody was at 4 p.m.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so in other words, there isn't a whole lot of time. It's all deliberate. Whoever shows up are the only ones that have a chance of winning. You were there. I know you were there. There were a few other people. But of course, Stidham ended up winning. But what I was told also was that Stidham was not allowed to be in the room because he was running. So everybody who was running had to get out of the room, and then just one at a time they go in, talk for 5 minutes, take 5 minutes of questions. And then when it was all done, Stidham came in, and now he has to vote, but he didn't even get a chance to listen to everybody. This whole thing is just so rigged. I mean, it's just crazy. I know it's legal. It's legal the way the Ohio Revised Code has it written, but it stinks ethically, doesn't it?
Well, let's dissect this a little bit. First of all, legal is a sick argument, because abortion is legal, slavery was legal, Jim Crow was legal. In Iran, pushing homosexuals off of buildings is legal. Just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Okay? I mean, we've had a lot of pushback on bad laws that have been on the books. But here's the situation. Stidham, Caleb, was allowed his 5 minutes and his 5 minutes of questions as a candidate, but then he was allowed to come back in and deliberate with the other 5 people that were going to make the ultimate decision. Well, no other candidate got to do that. Nobody got to sit there and say, I'm the best candidate again. And how long was that deliberation? Was it 5 minutes? Was it 50 minutes? We don't know. But he was in there deliberating with them after he didn't hear anybody else's qualifications. So obviously I would think he's a little biased. And unethical, yeah. Immoral, yeah. No integrity, yeah. I think
No, well, okay, hang on a minute. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Brian, I hadn't thought of that either because now he has to deliberate with everybody else. And so he's obviously going to be selling himself to the other people that vote, and no other candidate has that opportunity.
Yeah, I can add something to that because I had just a small involvement in it. I went there to Erie County. I went there specifically to record the session. And as I went into the building, there's a gentleman by the name of John Adams. Kid you not, his name is John Adams. And he said, well, you cannot record this. I said, well, why not? Isn't it a public meeting? He said, no, it is not held by the Board of Elections. It's held by the Republican Party. Therefore, no one is allowed in to see what happens. So, quite frankly, what that just tells me is the Erie County Republican Party does not believe in transparency. They want to do everything behind closed doors so that the public is not aware of what happens in their deliberations. I find that to be really, it could be a violation of the Sunshine Laws.
Steve, you were saying that what Brian just mentioned now could be a violation. You talked to a lawyer, is that right?
yes. I couldn't hear what Brian was saying, but
Okay.
yes, it's a violation of. It could be a violation of the Ohio Sunshine Law. And what that is basically is that all public meetings have to be public and the public has to be there. Brian, on his own dime, came to the meeting last Monday to videotape it. He was not allowed in and he wasn't allowed to videotape it. He was actually turned away. Amy Gruby, the chairman of the Erie County Democrat Party, was in the lobby, but she wasn't allowed in either. No public was allowed in. And this may be, and that's why the Erie County Board of Elections, the 4-member team, the 2 Republicans and the 2 Democrats were split on the vote to certify Caleb as the candidate. Because the Democrats said, no, he's not, because you violated the Ohio Sunshine Law. So, yes, and I've talked to some attorneys. I've talked to an attorney, and I also know that the Democrat candidate has been talking to attorneys as well, a very powerful law firm down in Columbus called McTeague and Colombo, LLC. So, if you
wait a
don't
minute.
think
Wait a minute. How is the Democrat involved in this? How is the Democrat Party involved in this?
Because it's a split vote. If Frank LaRose sides with the Republicans and confirms Caleb is the candidate, they can sue saying it's a violation of the Ohio Sunshine Law. And if it's proven in court that it was a violation, then the decision that was made in a non-public meeting, which that was, would be null and void, and Caleb would be pulled off the ballot.
Okay, all right. Let me back up 1 second because I wasn't aware of this. So there has been a lawsuit filed.
No, I didn't say that.
No.
yet.
Okay.
I
Well,
said-
explain it clearly. What is filed or what has happened?
All right. I know from information I just received earlier today that the Democrat candidate that's running against, he's running against DJ Swearingen, and now he's running against Caleb maybe, but he's on the ballot for November. He's the Democrat candidate, and I don't have his name here in front of me to tell you exactly what it is. He's a 21-year-old kid, but he was meeting with McTeague and Colombo LLC down in Columbus. They're a high-powered, left-as-you-can-get law firm, and they're looking at this, and they're looking at this seriously. I've also asked my attorney about this, and he said it's a very, very, very interesting question, because if you were replacing, think about this, if you're replacing someone who has resigned from office, that has to be a public meeting. But if you're resigning somebody that's on the ballot, well, that's a little grayer. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't have been a public meeting. So it may be a violation of the Sunshine Law, and Caleb may be pulled off the ballot, and that means that the Democrats will win in November because they're the only candidate on the ballot.
Okay. Hey, I want to read something here from a Facebook page. So this was off of the Ottawa County Republican Party Facebook page, and it's a letter from Tony DeLuca, and she's the secretary of the Ottawa County Republican Party.
I know her.
You know her. Okay, so I'm going to read some of this letter because she was not overly thrilled with what took place. Let's see here. She said, "For the sake of transparency, I believe it's important for me to write this letter. On Monday, I was a voting member on a committee of 6 to choose a replacement for D.J. Swearingen. I took my role in the committee seriously. I spent time with the candidates prior to the committee and look forward to hearing the presentations. Huron County Chair Seven Stahl was chosen to chair the committee because Caleb Stidham was a candidate. Caleb Stidham was in charge until the session started. At the start of the session, we were told that each candidate would present for 5 minutes and 2 minutes to ask questions. Then she objected to that and said we need more time. So the committee said, we'll give you 5 minutes. But, that's another thing. Originally, they were only going to give you guys 2 minutes to state to ask questions about anything. Come on. This is like a really important decision, right? Steve, this is an important decision. You should have more than 2 minutes to answer questions, right?
Yes, Joe, there's even an more important question that Tony's not aware of. I went there at 1 o'clock with signs to be out in the parking lot because I already have signs. I already have a campaign account. I have signs from the last time I ran. And I'm out there in the parking lot at 1 o'clock, and I'm expecting Sev Stallman, the one who's chairing the meeting, to drive through. To come through and see my signs. I got big signs. I got the big $300 signs, and never does, and nobody else ever does. And finally, Jill came through at about 1:15, and so did Jennifer. Jennifer Whitmer, that was the other candidate running for the position. And then when I found out, I went in and talked to Sev Stahl, the one who was chairing the meeting. Well, they had a pre-meeting at 12 o'clock. Now, who are they talking to at 12 noon? And what was that pre-meeting about? Who was invited? Who wasn't? Obviously, the chairwoman of the Ottawa County Republican Party and her secretary weren't invited because they didn't show up till like 1:15. And who were they talking to?
All right, so who was that? Wait a minute, real quick then. We don't know who they were talking to, but who was at the meeting?
Well, I know the chairman of the Huron County and his secretary was there. And I assume, and I hate to assume anything, that Caleb, chairman of the Erie County Republican Party, and his secretary were there.
Well, and now the Huron chairman and the secretary, they both voted for Caleb.
Exactly.
And they were there early talking. Okay, so again, the optics are horrible. Horrible. The optics are horrible. That's just what we need. That's just what we need, more horrible optics. And that's why I brought this up. We got to talk about it.
Joe, you just can't make this up, really. I mean, we're complaining about the Democrats'
Hang on a minute, Steve.
underhanded tactics. Republicans, they don't take a back seat to that at all. I mean, it's really ridiculous. Either you're going to be open and transparent with the people, or just say it like it is. You don't want the people to know. Period, paragraph, and just let them eat cake. That's all.
Eat cake and be happy. Okay. So Caleb Stidham won. And if everything goes as it's a plan, his name will be on the November ballot. And again, I'm not saying that Stidham should be elected. I'm not saying he shouldn't be elected. He might be the best candidate. He might be a loser of a candidate. I don't know. But the whole optics and the way this was thrown together stinks to high heaven. That's my opinion. Last thoughts, Steve, on it.
Stay tuned, because I think a lot more shoes are going to fall here in the next couple days, and you're going to be amazed at what you see.
All right. All right.
I just say, Joe, you can tell.
Thank you,
you
Steve.
can tell
Thanks
Steve.
God bless.
Yeah, if
God bless.
they need me to chime in, Joe, I'll be glad to chime in on anything of what really happened. Because I was the public that was not allowed to go into the meeting, and I'd be glad to share that with anyone.
Yeah. Can you expound on that for just a minute? I'm going to try to bring in our next guest here, Rob Dinteman. But what exactly took place? They seemed like they were very rude.
Well, I found the Erie County building, and I'll tell you, that's a beautiful building. They spared no expense in building that for the county government. And then I went up there, and there were 3 people in the hallway, and a gentleman by the name of John Adams, and his nameplate was on there, and I told him who I was and what I wanted to do, and he said, "Well, I'm sorry, but you can't come in because it's not a public meeting. It's not being handled by the Erie County Board of Elections. It's the Republican Party, and since it's the Republican Party, it's not an open meeting, and the public is not invited." So I said, well, that's really unfortunate, because I wanted to record it so that the people could actually see their government in action.
Yes, absolutely.
But just like so many, Republicans, they don't like the light of day, shining on what they're doing, unfortunately.
All right, let me just read this real fast, and we're going to move on to our next guest here. It says the Central Committee are being told what to do from the Rife building. Again, behind closed doors, the OMA need to reword that Central Committee must follow the OMA, because it states that Central Committees are closed meetings except for a 305 action. All right, so that's some specific stuff that I'm not overly aware of. But again, I'm not saying who should be representing us. I'm just saying I don't like the process. If I was Steve or any of those other candidates, and one of the candidates, Chris Enoch, he couldn't make it at 1 o'clock on Monday. It interfered with his job. And that was like, okay, well, sorry, you don't get a chance. You don't get to represent yourself or nothing. Sorry, see you next year, or see you somewhere down the road. So, come on. You got to do a better job than all of that, without a doubt. Okay, let's go to Rob. Are you out there? Rob, can you hear me?
I think somehow I've got too many. I'm gonna have to log back in. I think I got too many things open. I'm echoing a lot.
Okay. Okay.
It is coming through as an echo.
Yeah, it's coming through as an echo. Let me see here a minute. All right, 1 second. I think we got John. We got John. It looks like John Morrow's with us. How you doing, John?
Good, Joe. Good evening.
Good evening.
Brian.
Yep, I like that view
Hey,
behind
John.
you.
Oh yeah, nice
Somebody says
sunset,
go jump
too.
in a
There
lake.
you go.
All you got to do is turn around. You're there.
That's it.
All right, so we're going to be talking data centers here, and that is the name of this segment here, because it's a good one here. Data center revolt. We'll be talking about that. I got to get our guest coming on here and see if we got him. Rob, are you out there? Rob, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, say something because I got to know you're out there. Go ahead. Say something. Recite the alphabet backwards. Rob.
Elemental P.
What's that?
I see Rob is logged in twice.
Yeah.
But I
Kent.
can hear Rob.
Kent. All right. So I need to get rid of one of his. Let's see what we got here. Hang on 1 second. Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
We can look at that beautiful lake behind you here for a minute. All right, let me find out what's the audio for.
We could talk about data centers.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're definitely
We
going
will.
to talk about. Rob, are you with us tonight? Rob Dinteman. No? Okay, one more second here. Rob Dinteman left. All right, Rob, make sure you return, because if you don't return, we can't talk to you. And I wanted to get some really, really valuable information from you about what's happening in Pickaway County. John, are you aware of what's happening in Pickaway County? I mean, there's a lot. There's at least 2 different data center problems going on out there, and the citizens are furious, absolutely furious. I don't know if you're aware of it or not.
Briefly on that one. I mean, that's a new one that just came up. Obviously, I was with down in Columbus yesterday. Though we met with Vivek about, a lot of people had their concerns about the data centers, and they brought them up and a lot of questions. So we'll get into that, what was said. But again, it's the same old concerns. I mean, basically, people just don't want them in their backyards. Oh, we see Rob's here.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? Good to see you, man.
Good. Hey,
Hey,
sorry about the problems. I went with my phone instead, so I don't know, something's up with my computer, I guess.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and then if you want to turn your phone sideways, sometimes you get more of a view of you if you want. It's up to you. If you just physically turn it, sometimes it'll expand, sometimes it won't.
Oh my God.
You're making me dizzy. It's not working. All right, don't
I'm
worry
having
about
all
it.
kinds of
Don't
issues.
worry
I
about it.
apologize. What
Yeah,
a night.
That's good enough. We can see enough of you, and we got to talk about these data centers. Okay, it's I was looking into it, and it's kind of fascinating. So I want to give a background story a little bit here. Okay, to set the tone of what's going on here, because there's 2 of them out in Pickaway County. You may be aware of this.
Yeah, that's
there's-
correct.
There's one in Asheville. Let me just talk about this for a second. Asheville, Ohio. They're trying to plug in a couple data centers in Asheville, Ohio, which is near Columbus. And by the way, I need to do an introduction to you, because you're a lawyer, and you are also a candidate for State House District 23, and you're located in Lakewood, correct? Lakewood, Ohio.
That's correct, Joe.
Okay. So, and you're working with the citizens on not the Asheville, but you're working with them on the Commercial Point one in Pickaway County, right?
I had some involvement with the folks in Asheville. I did some advising down there, but I wasn't part of the main lawsuit that went to the Ohio Supreme Court and handled that aspect of it, but I did advise some of the citizens down there, at least in a minor point. I was helping them out too.
And you're also involved in the Commercial Point one, correct?
That's correct. I'm on point on that one. Those folks approached me about what was happening down there with regard to the votes, and we filed our lawsuit to try to stop this project.
Okay, so let me give everybody a quick background on what's happening here. I want to talk about Asheville for just a minute, and then we're going to get into Commercial Point, which are both in Pickaway County, which are both near Columbus, but beautiful God's country out there. Lots of land, but lots of room for data centers, which is what they're trying to do here. Okay, so in Asheville, they're trying to plug in a couple data centers, and what I got out of that was that let me see here. Let me just do it from memory. So in Asheville, they did what was called an emergency meeting. The village council did an emergency meeting on the data center, because if you do an emergency meeting on a data center, then you don't get the 30-day period to go out and solicit signatures and do a petition and everything, and to get it on the ballot and let the people vote and say, we don't want the data center.
That's correct.
Okay. So in Asheville, the village council said it's an emergency. And then when they asked them, well, what is it all about, the emergency? And it's a very vague. It's like, oh, for the public safety. For public safety, we're doing it. And for public health, we're doing it. It's an emergency. We're not going to give you a 30-day period to go out and get petitions or anything like that. We don't want it to stall. This. And then it went to the Ohio Supreme Court, correct?
That's right, yes.
And the Ohio Supreme Court threw it back and said, well, this doesn't make any sense. You're not giving us a good reason as to why you filed it as an emergency meeting, an emergency clause or whatever. So, and I do have to preface this, the people in Asheville went out and got over 800 signatures.
Yeah, they did really amazing work to get that done.
So they got 800 signatures, and they said to the council, they said, we don't care what you're saying. We got the signatures. We want it on the ballot. Council said, you're not going to get it on the ballot. We're not going to be voting on it. They took it to the Ohio Supreme Court. The Ohio Supreme Court then threw it back to the county board of elections and said, you guys figure it out. Is that your understanding of Asheville?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And then I would say now it's going a step further, because now there's litigation being threatened down there to even prevent this from going forward. It's almost kind of like, hey, the corporations are coming together to see if we can stop whether or not these folks can get this on the ballot. It's become quite a fight. It's something to definitely pay attention to.
Okay. So the reason I brought that one up is not only that you're part of it in a way, but it's also in the same county as a Commercial Point, which is what we're going to get to right now, because I know you're heavily involved in that one. And that one's kind of fascinating. I find it even more fascinating. But the point I wanted to make in all this, and John, I don't know if you knew about this, but when they're supposed to give you 30 days to go out and get petitions and signatures and put it on the ballot. That's what a village council is supposed to allow the people to do, unless they say, well, we can't give you the 30-day time period because it's an emergency. And they only do that because they don't want you to go out and get the signatures. And Asheville said, screw that. We're going to get the signatures anyhow. And it's a big fight. But that's what that is about.
I'm not familiar, being a mayor of a village now, my 5th year. Never heard anything. I guess, it sounds devious to me, so I wouldn't know about doing anything like that. But then again, that's what they're doing now. They're signing NDAs. They're pushing these things through. They're making the back of the room deals, and they're not. Basically, what they're doing is the lies that they're giving now when they're lying to people. The lies of omission. They're not telling the full disclosure. They're telling what's going on, happening. I mean, that was another thing. I mean, it's people aren't informed, and most of the people just want to know what's going on ahead of time, and that's what they're hiding everything. And that's, again, this is all part of that, because what are they hiding? They're doing something secretively because they're making backroom deals, and it all has to do with money. Obviously they're getting paid off, bought off, because that's what these data centers are doing now. They're just using pilot money, payment in lieu of taxes. They're basically it's bribery money that they're using to pay off to buy their way into a community.
Exactly. I mean, that's very well put. So I'm going to move over now. Rob, let's talk about Commercial Point. So Commercial Point's 8 miles up the road from Asheville. It's another village. It's small,
right.
3,500 people or something like that. All right, the background on this, and then I'm going to get into your expertise in the whole thing. But the background on this is that in May of 2024, Commercial Point Village Council rezoned 267 acres for data centers. So they rezoned a plot of land, 267 acres, and you can only put a data center on it, nothing else, okay? And they also, by the way, said that this was an emergency. And so they're not going to allow anybody to go out and get petitions or anything like that. And the people of Commercial Point were not as active as the people of Asheville, who went and got the signatures anyway and said, we're going to take it to the Ohio Supreme Court. So they didn't do anything in Commercial Point on that aspect. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a second aspect, and that is you have to have 3 meetings on 3 different days for public input. And people can voice their opposition to it and get rowdy and get mad and everything like that. But you have to do that. And in order to do that, the only way you could stop it was you had to get 3/4 vote of the council members to stop it. Is that correct so far?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so you got to get 3/4. Now here's where it gets crazy. And this must be where you're involved.
Correct, yeah.
They only had 5 members. 4 of the 5 said that they were not going to allow this 3 meetings. Okay, so 4 out of 5 means that you got more than 3/4, more than 75%. But there's 6 members, and the 6th member wasn't there. As a matter of fact, he resigned.
That's correct.
But this doesn't the law state that you got to have 6 members, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the point of the lawsuit, is that we had somebody drop out right before this important vote, and then they never replaced them, and then they just kind of pushed it through. And so that's why we're challenging what happened here. They didn't have enough members. That's our argument. Now, obviously, we have to get through the hoop of standing first, whether or not we get to that point, but that's the second thrust of this lawsuit, is to say, hey, this wasn't done properly, and we didn't, and the folks down there didn't get their say because of it.
Because what they were going by just the amount of current members, but the law, I believe, says you got to have 6 members and all the members. So if you only, not the members who show up, but the total, and if somebody resigns, quits, dies, you're supposed to replace that person.
Well,
Right.
if the person is not replaced, that would be almost like an abstain. It'd be like if a person was there and they abstained from voting, they wouldn't vote. So that would count as an abstain, which basically, if you have 4 out of the 6, okay, that's not 75%. So again, they didn't have enough votes. They needed more. They needed all 5 votes in order to pass, to suspend the rules is what they needed to do. In order to suspend the rules, you got to have, 5 out of the 6. 4 out of 6 won't do it. Okay, can't have just the majority. So the thing is, I mean, and again, what they were trying to do is suspend the 3 rule reading. Okay, so that's why they declared emergency. But in order to suspend the rules, you have to have a majority, which is 5 out of the 6 have to be present and vote yes to suspend the rules. If only 4 vote yes out of the 6, then basically it doesn't pass, or they can't suspend the rules. Then it just stays on first reading. Then it's got to go to the next meeting. Now they can have another meeting and then read it again. It'll go on second reading. Then the third one, they can do it again. Once they have that third reading, then they can basically vote on it, and 4 out of the 5 then, or out of the 6 then, can pass that resolution. But again, to suspend the rules, okay, to bypass the 3 rule, you have to have 5 out of the 6, and that's what they didn't have. And that one that wasn't there, they thought, well, because we have 4 out of 5, we have more than 75%. That's not true, because you have 6 positions there. So that one would be an abstaining then. And this way, then, that's how it would work. Well,
Rob,
unless I'm reading it wrong. Go ahead, Rob.
No,
you're
that sounds
reading
about
it
right. But Rob, how long ago did this all take place? This wasn't like it happened yesterday. This goes back a ways, right? How long ago
Couple
did
years. It was 2024. This is when it happened, and then it kind of all just kind of disappeared. And then these folks that I represent now, when they came in, they found out about this. It was kind of the same deal with, there were NDAs. There wasn't a lot of disclosure. It kind of just was heading its way through, and then these folks are like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And then they found this out, and then we brought the lawsuit, and it's like to say, hey, look, we've got to have a proper voice here. We can't be suspending these rules. And I think given the environment right now, I think it would be more pertinent because people are voicing their opinions about these data centers. They want to say, hey, we want these things done properly. We don't just want these things coming in. And I guess I never understood, and the thing I'm learning about all this now as I pay more attention to it. I mean, I've watched it, but why does all this have to be under the cover of darkness? Why do we have to do this? If these things are so great, they're so important, I think we have to have public discussion. I think that's key to this. I just not understanding that part of it, and that's always puzzled me. And I guess what's brought me into this lawsuit is I think we're here for more transparency about these things. You know, what are they there for? What's going on? Let's get the citizens involved. Let's make sure that they're voicing their opinion and not just kind of ramrod these things through. I think that's a big question there.
I'll add one other thing, too. And by the way, I'm going to throw this out real fast. You're also running for Ohio Senate, state senator for District 23, which would be in Lakewood, Ohio area, correct?
Right. It covers most of I'd say the western shore of the lake, all the way to Lorain County's border there, Bay Village, all the way just a little bit of Cleveland on the other side, right along the lake. It's an open seat. I'm running as a Republican. I'm looking for support out there. Obviously, pillars of my campaign are going to be data center transparency. I'm a big property tax reform person, and I would like to bring some change to the district. I think it's time for a change, and I would welcome support in this matter.
Yeah, that area needs change because it's too much Democrat controlled. Too much Democrat controlled. So the mayor of Commercial Point, from what I read, 2 weeks prior to this meeting way back when, said that council needs to get 5 votes.
Right.
So
that's what makes
he's
it
even
interesting.
supporting what you're saying, and he's supporting what John Mara, mayor of Timberlake, was just saying. So you got a strong case there. What else is the roadblock to stopping this then?
Right now, the biggest issue, and I'll update folks, is it was set for August 25th. It got pushed back to October 4th now for the hearing. That's basically the standing issue. Do citizens have the standing to bring a lawsuit regarding this data center development with regarding to the rules and how it's going to affect their community, which is kind of an interesting question. You figure as citizens of the state of Ohio, of this country, you always have standing to voice your grievances. So it's kind of an interesting argument that's going to be made on that day. Okay,
so you have to have standing. Could you explain what that would be specifically? Is that saying that the bringing a data center into that area is going to cause the home values to decrease? Because I got to say one thing. There's some very expensive homes in that village, especially right by that golf course. They're like $500,000 to $1 million.
Yes.
Current price range. So there's not a lot of paupers. So is that kind of what you're referring to then as having standing, that this could lower the property values of their homes, or is this something else?
No, that's one of the elements of it. Is there how are these folks affected by the data center? Is it property value? Is it just general health? What is it? We have to show that we're being particularly injured by these data center developments. Now, what's interesting about it seems like with a lot of these developments, we're not getting the full information. Like, I don't think they disclose a lot of it, particularly like NDAs. So it's kind of tough to particularize that. And I think this battle is still being fought all over the state. Is how do you answer that question? You know, I think citizens are starting to figure that out now. So right now, what is the standing? How are we being injured by these data centers? How is it that property values, utility bills? Some folks have health concerns that they've raised here, and it's putting that all together to show that, hey, we have injuries. It's something that we need to be able to address, and we need to bring it to court to basically challenge this situation, and then obviously challenge the vote that was taken in this.
Yeah, I think you got a strong case with the vote, hopefully with the standing as well. So, John, I want to throw this at you because you have a lot of knowledge then. So what would be some of the issues with the citizens to have standing in this court case?
Well, the issue obviously would be, well, they didn't follow the proper protocol when it came to the 3 rule reading and all that. So that's one. But the other thing is this. I mean, I brought it up yesterday. I was down in Columbus, and we had a private town hall with Vivek. And, he had his 3-part plan for our data centers. His was free electricity for the community, was lower the property taxes for all the homeowners of that community. And the third was no exemptions for air quality and water quality. So those were his 3 non-negotiables. He said you have to meet all 3 or you're not going to be built in there. So what I did was I was at the very end, I was able to ask him a question. Actually, I didn't even have time to ask him a question. Well, my question was regarding the natural gas and how we're going to have our energy costs are going to go up, heating costs are going to go up because of these behind-the-meter natural gas generators. So I went into the whole part about, first of all, the free electricity. I says, if you have a data center that's producing 900 megawatts, like he referred to, and he says there's 300 more megawatts, or it's a 700 megawatt data center. They're going to produce 1 gigawatt of behind-the-meter power. They're going to have 300 megawatts left as almost like a cushion. Okay, it would be for their backup. And then they said that they're going to take that 300,000 or 300 megawatts and give it to the residents, and they give them free electricity. Problem is that they need that reserve always there. And to produce that, I even brought up to their attention, because to produce 1 gigawatt, because then he went down to Portsmouth after us. He had a hard break at noon. And he went down there to see the data center there. And I brought that as an example. I says, just so you know, I says, they're proposing to build 9.2 gigawatts of behind-the-meter power generation for their 10 gigawatt data center there in Portsmouth, or down in Portsmouth. And what they're going to do is, they says the 9.2, in order to produce that power, it's going to consume 1/3 of what we're using currently in natural gas per year. Okay, so that's for 10. Right now, PGM is saying by 2030, they're going to put 40 gigawatts on the grid, okay, back on the grid. So that's 4 times that, which means, if we do the math, pretty much, we're going to use more than we're producing, we're using now total, just to power these data centers. And there's where the problem is. It's like, because then he's thinking that the reserve, and then he said that another thing about the property taxes, they're going to lower property taxes. And I brought up the point. I says, look, they're not the only ones that should have lower property taxes. I go, you could do that without even bringing in the data center. I says, if the state were to follow the law and pay for the school funding, I says, because I says, to your point, Vivek, and I was right in front of him. And I says, because I know you want to do school reform, which is needed. I says, but the state has no skin in the game. I said, if the state were to take over the funding completely, okay, which is only $13 billion, which can be made up through foregone revenue and the Medicaid fraud, I says, that basically then will give you the power so that you can fix the schools like they need to be done. Because let's face it, we don't have local control when it comes to the schools. So I was able to make those at least 2 points. Oh, then I made one more point. I says, as far as the property tax, I says, like I said, that would cut 2/3 of the property tax for everyone just by the state taking care of the school funding. So I had a rush because that was right at the end. We only had like 3 more minutes, and there were 4 more people that had asked questions, and he had to cut out of there. But at least I got to say what I needed to say to him. But like I said, he did listen. A lot of the concerns, to your point, there are a lot of health concerns. The forever chemicals they discharge, number one, the air quality, a big concern, because when you have these behind-the-meter power generators, these natural gas turbine generators, not only do they make noise, but they put off a lot of CO2 in the air, and that causes problems too. So, no one's looking at that. And then I haven't even touched on the closed loop. And I says, they're saying they're going to go to closed loop. Well, to go to a closed loop, you need more power. And to generate more power, okay, you need natural gas turbine generators. And I says, first of all, there's 3 to 5 year wait time on those generators as it is when these data centers are being built, 1 to 2 years, okay? I says, that's the other problem we have. In the meantime, they're tapping into the grid. So, all these things, like I said, these ideas, great ideas, but like I said, they're not feasible, in my mind. And I brought up the last point. I says, look, we know the health concerns. The consensus is this: 70%, according to the last poll, people do not want them near their homes. I go, very simple. Instead of them having to opt out, you ban them near residential areas, and you just, if that residential wants it, they can opt in. Why do, if they want, they can opt in. Why do they have to opt out and make it so difficult? So that's how I left it with them. Basically, to solve the data center problem, they should be banned, especially near residential areas. And then again, if that residential area wants it, 70% super majority. If they want it, then it goes in, because 50% plus one, as we know, that could be, anyone can rig that. So again, it would have to be if the residents really want it. If the data center want to go there, believe me, they'll offer more. We're going to give you no property tax, free water, free electric, free this, free that. They'll give them free everything if they want it bad enough. And the community say yes or no.
Right. No. But those are great points. And so much of it is the environment, the water, the soil.
Oh, huge.
The air. What are the people, Rob, what are the people in Commercial Point saying about that, about the possibility of this pollution going into the water, into the wells, into the air, etc., like that?
I mean, they're very concerned about it because there's some areas in that in Commercial Point that have natural wildlife, natural habitat. They've got water around there. I mean, all this stuff is a danger. Some of these folks have individual health concerns, some severe allergies, other medical concerns that they've been worried with their doctors talking about. So, I mean, I think there's a big concern, and obviously just, you're going to lose the natural habitat that is that community down there. Just putting this big building down there with all these things, taking the natural resources, and again, causing damage to the property, to the wildlife in the area, and just become the big eyesore in this community. I mean, I think they're still building homes. They're going to potentially be closer to this data center than they are now. I mean, just continuing to build them, and I'm not sure how that's going to work for folks, but particularly given the environment they're going to work to kind of move into this place. I mean, you can see vacant homes sitting there, because why would I want to move next to this data center? Just not enough information. I mean, John does a good job. He lays out everything that I think people are concerned about, and I think we need to continue to have these discussions. This stuff needs to be brought out. It needs to be transparency. It doesn't need to be NDAs. It doesn't need to be, let's pass everything as emergency so we can't talk about it. Let's let people have a discussion. And I guess if they opt in after all of this, then that's fine. But at least you've had full disclosure, and we've talked about all of it. I just don't think we're doing that enough. I think we're trying to now. I think folks are making strides, but I think more needs to be done, clearly.
Have they told you if it's the cooling system, if it's going to be a closed loop, or are they just going to be sucking up water? I can't imagine that, because this is a massively huge data center. This blew my mind. I don't know, 220,000 square foot data buildings, not one, 8.
Yeah,
8 of them.
It's a massive project. It's huge, and so I don't think all of that's come out yet, because that's the problem that we're dealing with too. Is it just seems like some of this stuff still needs to be figured out, and it kind of makes it a little bit difficult. Is like, what's this really going to look like? And they can tell you a lot of things, but I don't think we've seen the full plans of where this is going to go and how it's going to turn out. So we're not getting all of those details yet. And I think that's part of what we're trying to deal with here, is like, what is actually going on here? I don't think full disclosure has happened. I mean, we got the general gist of it. We see what it's going to be, but I don't think we know exactly how they're going to run this thing exactly yet at this point.
I'm going to read let me read this real quick. Are there any water discharge regulations? Some chemicals have not even been identified. EPA ruling. Stephanie Stock, and chemical expert, and many others have testified in Columbus. You might know that better than me, because I don't know it, but I know that the Ohio EPA, for some reason, was going to initially lower the standards for the data centers. And that's crazy. And where you're at there in Commercial Point, the wells are very shallow. That's another thing. There's 6 wells that you're getting the water from, and they're only 15 feet or maybe a little bit more in depth. It's like a water hazard. The Ohio EPA, said that it's highly easily contaminated. It's highly easily. So that's why I'm asking, where are they going to get the water for the data center? And if it's a closed loop cooling system, John, if it's a closed loop cooling system, I mean, that still pollutes, right?
Well, here's what happens. In a closed loop, they have to blow it off and purge the system every so often, depending on how big it is, how much they use it, or how many units they have and so forth. But regardless, they have to purge the system. When they purge that system, they have to discharge it somewhere. And usually they discharge it into the wastewater. And that's why they want to be in a community, because they need three things. They need power, they need water, clean water, which is basically domestic water from a clean source. Because again, they can't even take river water because they have to purify it and all that, which they would do. But like I said, they need clean water, then they need to dispose that water, which is into the waste. And that's what we're going to get into. What they discharge, they're not telling the treatment plants what they're discharging either. It's like what they used to do when a lot of these industry plants, manufacturing plants, used to just discharge into the Cuyahoga River, and that's how they had all the pollution, because they weren't telling what they were discharging into the sewers. Well, unless they know what's coming in, a lot of these chemicals can't be detected, unless they know that unless they're there to detect them, like anything else. If you're not checking for like chlorine, you don't have a chlorine tester, you're not going to see if there's any chlorine. Well, it's the same thing as these chemicals coming through. Most of them just get passed, I believe, right through the filtration plants. And the problem with these waste treatment plants, they're not designed to handle or to treat these forever chemicals and to eliminate them. What they do is just pass right into the lake. Well, the biggest problem that we have too is that when they take well water, they're taking from the aquifer, but now when they discharge, they're putting it back into the ground. They're saying, well, we replenish it goes back into the ground, but it doesn't replenish the aquifer like they say. Most of it gets evaporated, some would get absorbed in the soil, and it never makes it down into the aquifer. And again, that's another fallacy that they say, well, we're discharging it back into the stream or the river. But the other problem is this, because again, it comes down to when they purge these systems, and this is why they need more water. In order to meet some of these EPA standards for these discharge chemicals, the parts per million, they need to dilute that discharge. So that's where they use extra water. Even in a closed loop, they have to actually introduce clean, fresh water to that discharge to dilute it, to get the parts per million low enough to be able to discharge it into the river per the EPA. That's on the known chemicals. Then there's some unknown now that we're just finding out that the EPA didn't even know about until these data centers started using them. Now, that's another whole thing that the EPA doesn't even want to talk about it, but there's a lot of people out there like Stephanie Stock and others that are basically bringing that out and saying, look, you have to look at this too now. And now, that's again, they're trying to make more requirements for that. But, and then the third thing they need basically is why they need to be in a community is because they have to have the, fiber optics. That's the main thing. If they don't have fiber optics, because, they produce and manufacture the data, but they have to get it out there. How do they get it to the people? They need fiber optics. And that's why one of the questions is, why do they got to be in the neighborhoods? Why have they be near residential homes? Because in residential areas, you have power that comes in, main power that they can tap into. Okay. You've got their clean water and sewer system that they need. Okay. Number two, and then you need the fiber optics. You need those three things, and that's where the communities have it. Once you get it outside of a city or a village, you no longer have those three criteria that they need. And again, wells don't do it. It doesn't give them enough water, and they'll end up drying up the aquifer. And that's another problem that they have. And, what they do in that, they don't have to use water cool. They can use air cool. It's not as efficient. They have to use, more air cooled and, again, more electricity. But then again, they can do it without water, and that's probably what they're going to do when they have like a well area, like in that, where they're not going to have enough water. They're going to go with a lot of the air-cooled systems.
Well, it is definitely a mess out there with these data centers, and people don't want them, but it sounds like they have to take them. It's like you don't have a choice, and it's good to see that we've got people like Rob here who's you're standing up for the citizens, you're fighting with them. So where does this go now? You said that the judge moved the date back. So
yeah, October 4th is now the hearing, so we got a little bit more time. And obviously we're going to put on the best that we can for regard to standing, show how this is impacting these folks, and then hopefully we can get over the first hurdle, and then we can go after the vote problem that's clearly there.
I think you have a lot of ammunition.
Hey, Joe, can I chime in?
You absolutely can. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Joe, the question I have is that how many data centers can we support in the state of Ohio? If we have 200 of these small ones, can we support 2,000? How about 20,000? Is there an upper limit that, the water and the electrical requirements? It just seems like I wouldn't want to see Ohio just be, wall-to-wall data centers. There's got to be, at some point in time, saying we can't take anymore. But what I did learn from the Vivek meeting on Saturday was that if the federal government says that because of national security we have to have data centers, that can override everything in the state. I didn't know that.
Wow. No, I didn't know that either. And I know that 10 is it a 2? What are they building down in Portsmouth there, Pike County? I don't know if it's a 10 gigawatt or what. Or
10
I think John would know that.
power. It's a 10 gigawatt
10 gigs.
data center, and they're gonna put in 9.2 gigawatts behind the meter natural gas turbine generator for backup.
Okay.
For power.
And that 10 gigawatt one is Trump's pushing it because it's on federal land.
That's federal land, correct.
And Ohio has nothing to even say about it. And it's like it'll be the largest one in the state of Ohio. And we don't even have a say in it because
it's going to
consume
1/3 of what we use in natural gas resources currently. And the problem is, and that's why I also brought up, I says, our natural gas prices are going to go skyrocket just like our electricity prices now have skyrocketed over the last 5 years when they put in these behind the meter natural gas behind the meter, power generators. That's what's going to end up happening. And then I had to bring that to their attention too, because people don't see the next, the big picture, what's coming in the future. And, these behind the meter, it solves the problem because, and to your point, Brian, how many data centers can we build? We can't afford to build one more because we're already at a net, we're a net importer of power now as it is. We actually import more than we generate. And I thought it was 9%. And when I saw former Commissioner Hamercheck yesterday down there in Columbus, he said, no, 5 years ago it was 14%. And I'm like, oh, so again, we're either way, we're in around that 10 to 12% range though of being a net importer, not exporter, which means, we're relying on the PJM grid, and we're going to lose Perry and David Bessie to Meta because their contract, they're going to upgrade those two and basically take pretty much 75% of the power from that. So they're going to take 2 gigawatts of power away from our base load, just Meta alone. So that's another 2 gigs that we're going to lose. And again, no one's talking about
John, you know what I can see happening in the state of Ohio when I think about it? We can, with the data centers and the property tax issue, unless the leaders in the state and the future leaders get their hands around this thing, we can see a mass exodus of people leaving the state because the younger generation, the American dream in the state of Ohio is evaporating for them. And if we continue, moving in this direction, our population of 11 million, could be in half in 10, 20 years.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that because the data centers aren't bringing in any employment. They employ so few people. The only place that they're generating a lot of employment is when they're building the darn things. But then they're getting so many tax breaks, it ain't really helping the local community at all. Rob, I'm going to give you the last word here tonight. I want to thanks for the email and reaching out to me about this, and it forced me to look into it, and I was amazed because I had no idea about Asheville or Commercial Point and some of this stuff going on. So good luck with the judgment. Keep us up to date on it, if you would, please, so we can follow it.
Absolutely. That'd be my pleasure. I mean, hopefully it goes the right way. I think this is an important issue, and I think it speaks a lot to just transparency. We got to keep fighting to do that, to make sure that, I don't know, our voices get heard and it's not taken away from us. And it seems like with this data center, this has become such a, I don't know, just a hot issue, and it's just become, I guess, a battleground for democracy. I'm not sure I understand why, we can't keep this transparent. I think all of us are talking about it here. We just need to keep moving forward, keep it transparent, and keep the fight, and let the citizens, have their voice heard on this matter. I think it's important.
Well, you got it. You got it. Well, thank you again for all you're doing. We really appreciate it.
Hey,
God bless
thank you. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I'll tell you what, real quick in closing on this whole thing. Are you still with me? Yeah, you're still with me.
I'm still here.
The thing that really bothered me the most doing this research was how these villages just wanted to take the average citizen out of the equation. They don't want you going out getting signatures. You're supposed to have a 30-day period to go out and get signatures. They don't want that. They don't want you having these meetings. You have to have 3 meetings. They don't want people coming and storming the place and saying, get this data center the hell out of here. They want to do NDAs. It's the 6 to 7 people in these small village council people that are, really against their own constituents.
There was a councilwoman that says about she was taking a lot of heat, a lot of pressure. She's like, and it's not right. But all she has to do is say no to the data center, and she won't. She'll do what the residents want. I mean, people don't want them near their homes, and that's what they don't understand. These people, what they're doing is they're trying to push them through. Why? Because here's the problem, Joe. What it comes down to, basically they're getting paid off by these data center people. They're being approached, and they sign NDAs or they don't have to sign NDAs. Okay, they can basically, no one says that, even if they don't sign an NDA, it doesn't mean that they haven't been approached and that they're not basically taking a bribe. Sorry, I mean that's where I got to look at it. I mean,
right.
The thing is this, and why else would they do it? If you're not listening to the people you voted for, you got to be doing it for the money. You're on the take.
Right.
Sorry.
I agree with you 100%. They're getting something. They've got to be getting something under that table, man. There's no question about it.
Then if they're not, then why can't they just do what the people want? The people don't want it. Why then would you not do what the people who put you in office want? Okay, and then you wouldn't have to take any more garbage from people. They wouldn't be yelling at you at every meeting. Okay, I mean, when our residents want something, we give it to them. The only time if we don't give it to them, of course they're going to yell. But again, the only reason why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, there's an ulterior motive. And again, you always got to follow the money. Bottom line, follow the money.
Yeah, all the time. All right, Brian, we got to talk property taxes. John, stick around if you like. Let's talk about some property taxes.
Yeah, please do, John.
Stuff tonight. Yeah. So I'll let you get started.
I do have a few things to mention about that,
Go
Joe,
ahead.
that our listeners may be interested in. It starts at the Geauga County Fair. We tried to get a booth for the Abolish the Property Taxes to collect signatures in Geauga County, and we were told they had no booths available. Everything has been sold out. And then the Fair Board told us that we cannot get a booth, one of our booths, on private property within 1,000 feet of a fair entrance. And I said, well, how does that happen? And they cited the Ohio Revised Code, section 1711.12. And, I read that, and we had our lawyer read it. And what they were saying is you can't have concessions. You can't sell, hats or anything. You can't make any sales. But it doesn't say anything about, collecting signatures. So thanks to Skip Claypool of Geauga County, he is going out talking to people within 1,000 feet of the entrance so that we can get a booth on their private property. And we're saying to the Geauga Fair Board, well, let's, why don't you sue us then if we're going to have that, and let's let's have that out in court. We're willing to fight that battle because we do not believe that the Geauga Fair Board can prevent us from doing anything in private property. So that's one thing. And
Okay,
I'll,
one
let
second
you
on that,
know
though.
any-
Hang on a minute, because I was
Who's
at
on
the
the
county.
board?
I was at the county, the Cuyahoga County Fair. All right, and so
Yeah.
then you have the Strongsville Republican group, which is right on the walkway, and they've got clipboards out there, signed the Axe Ohio tax. And you've got vendors selling and everything imaginable. So how is it that you are not allowed on that property, a fair property? How is that even possible? What's their reasoning?
Well, again, and we're not even asking to go onto the fair where the fair is actually being held. It's some questions as far as solicitations, but we're talking about being outside of the fairgrounds on private property, and they were trying to prevent us from actually doing that outside of the fairgrounds. And we weren't even talking about being, in the fair, just walking around with clipboards. So we think that they're way out over their skis on this one, and we're gonna, we'll see if we can challenge them if they want to make a big deal of us doing it on private property.
Hey, one second. I'm going to get right back to you, Brian. So gear up for the
Yes.
next question. But, John, I just realized, so next week you've got the LCLC picnic, August 22nd, Saturday. Why don't you put a plug in for it real quick?
Yeah, it'll be at our home at 39 Minnewawa Drive in Timberlake. And again, it's just our annual picnic. I don't know, you probably have more information than me. I got to find it here. It caught me off guard.
Well, Stephanie Stock, you will be speaking, correct? Stephanie Stock.
will be speaking. And let's see, here we go. Yeah, it's Saturday, August 22nd, 1 to 4 p.m. Stephanie Stock will be speaking on basically House Bill 112 and House Bill 12. It's the consensus, the right to refuse. So that's one thing. And then, like I said, we're going to have burgers, hot dogs, and suggested donation is $10. Kids 6 to 12 is $5. Bring your kids. We have the beach behind us, the lake. They come out, enjoy the lake, enjoy, like I said, the sunset, hopefully, if you stay late enough. But it'll be a great time. And like I said, you'll hear a great speaker, Stephanie Stock. And then again, we just talked. We're all great conservative Republican, and we basically just love to talk politics and religion, of course. We got to talk about, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So it all goes together. But yeah, it'd be a great time. So if you can come out, it'd be great.
Now, awesome. And it starts at 1 o'clock, right?
Yes.
1
It's at
o'clock. And speaking
And you're
of
also going
religion,
to be able to
If
sign
you
a
want to
petition there.
RSVP, you can RSVP. It's 440-687-6472. It's 440-687-6472.
Awesome. All right, Brian. What else you got?
What else do we have? Well, on Friday, Patriot Ed Maloof from down in Beaver Creek, he and I went to the Butler County, spoke to their Chamber of Commerce at the Miami University, and we were talking to them about property taxes. We had, I don't know, there's 20, 25 people there from the Chamber of Commerce. It was a good discussion, and for the most part, it was probably 90-10 that they were agreeing with us. One individual, prominent individual, Nancy Nix, N-I-X, from Butler County. She is their auditor. She did not agree with me on the abolishment of property taxes because she feels that the government should be involved in all of the social services. And I respectfully disagree. My problem is getting the government involved in that is it's never ending. It never stops. The government keeps growing and growing and growing for these social services. And you've got places like libraries, for example. They're now becoming homeless centers. and the government keeps growing, and it's out. The public sector in Ohio has outgrown the private sector's ability to pay for services. So, but we did get a good response from the Butler County Treasurer. He agrees with us that the government is growing too quickly, and he even signed our petition. So we salute
awesome.
to.
Awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Michael McNamara, I believe his name is, and he was so proud of his website. I'll have to get with Lake County Auditor Galloway and see if what they did on their website is they made total transparency. The individual, the citizens can actually go to their website and they can see how many individual tax levies that they're paying on, whether it's for the county, the schools, and their municipality. I did that here in Lake County, and I found out that I'm paying over 45 property tax levies, county, schools, and municipalities, which is really ridiculous.
That's going to bankrupt
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, that's going to bankrupt you. Hey, one thing I found out. Hey, I want to throw something at you, and then I'll let you continue. One thing that I found out. So when we're talking property taxes for the schools, we're talking in 2027, $11 billion from homeowners. That's what they take in. They take $11 billion from us, and then they take another $4 billion or so from the businesses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
okay.
Here's what I didn't know, and maybe you didn't know. That $11 billion in 2027 includes rental income. So if you were to just give property tax relief to everybody who has a home, it would be much less than $11 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
there's ways to get that 11. It would be like maybe let's say $9 billion. There's ways to get that. With $100 billion budget, there are ways to get that. And here's one other thing, and I want you to comment on this if you would. But let's say it's $9 billion that the taxpayers are not paying because of property taxes being abolished just on your primary the taxpayers, you and I, that have a home. So that's $9 billion back into our pockets. I mean, we're going to be throwing that into the economy. We're going to be buying more gas. You're going to be collecting so much more in sales tax and everything, a boon to the economy. People are going to want to come to the state. All of this, the growth and the plus side is not even taken into consideration. Yeah,
exactly right. Commissioner Plechnik had mentioned that several times that we could maybe get double or triple of what we're collecting in the property taxes. But the problem is with government, it is once the system has grown and grown and grown, everybody says, well, this is the only way that we can pay for all of these services, and that's just not true. They're just unwilling to step back and say, how else can it be funded? And we're saying we'll pay for the police and fire, just don't tie it to our home. We did, John Maher and I were, down on Saturday talking to Vivek, and we did talk to him about property taxes. There was more about the data centers than property taxes, but we did get our oar, in there. And interesting, Vivek saw the hat that I'm wearing, and he says, "Can I get one of those hats?" So I will. So I will be sending a signed hat to Mr. Ramaswamy. Whether or not he's still not into the abolishment, from the get-go, but he did say that if you can get it on the ballot and if you pass, we're gonna deal with it. He's gonna have to deal with it. He asked me, well, what about the suggestions he made for property tax reform? And I told him they're irrelevant. And when I said that, he sort of stepped back and said, "Whoa, really? What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well, they're irrelevant because we're going to get this on the ballot in November 27, and people are going to vote to abolish the property taxes." And I was saying to him that he and other leaders in this state, it's private property is the foundation of our freedom and liberty. That's why I say private property is the foundation of our freedom and liberty. And I'm pleading with him to save the freedom and liberty for our future generations. We're talking about doing, in as far as the data centers. What if we overload the state with data centers? What if we overload the state with property taxes where people can't afford the American dream? They're going to leave the state of Ohio. Ohio doesn't lead the state in their country in anything other than the funding of public libraries. We need new leadership. Leadership such as Ramaswamy, Marcel Stribage, Commissioner John Plechnik, that generation, those people that are in their 40s, I think, in my humble opinion, that's the generation that is going to save the state of Ohio and this nation, because we have way too much fraud, waste, and abuse, and the corruption is staggering, and they're not listening to the average citizen. This whole movement, as I pull back the curtain, and I've seen what, and it's not all of the Republican Party throughout the state, but as I've seen many of them, that they don't believe in the honesty, integrity, and transparency as being the keys to good governance. And in order for us to move forward as a state and as a nation, we better start adopting honesty, integrity, and transparency as the keys to our governmental bodies, or we're done.
I agree with that. Very good. Very good. John, if we were to not abolish the state income tax, they collect $10 billion or something.
$10.9 billion.
Okay.
$10.9 billion.
10.9. 11 billion.
Tax.
11 billion. They collect $11 billion on that state income tax.
And
that would take care of all the property taxes for us personal residences.
Right.
Just to eliminate it right there. So if we just took the money that came in from the state income tax, because they want to get rid of that anyhow, but keep it, and all the money, the 10, 11, 12 billion, whatever comes in from it, that would pay for everybody's property taxes across the whole state of Ohio for their primary residence. And that's not even talking about the boon in the economy, how much, you got $10 billion going to be flushed into the Ohio economy and everything else. This is very doable. Don't you think?
It is. And Joe, here's the thing too. There's many ways to look at this. We're looking at that way, which is a great way to look at it. But, another way to look at it is, Commissioner No says cut spending, right? Well, if you look at our budget pre-COVID, it was about $65 billion. Okay. Now, right now it's 100 and say 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. But either way, if you take the 65 billion pre-COVID and take 3% a year for inflation, okay, normal inflation, our budget should be about $80 billion right now. And that's on the high side, okay? Well, guess what? We're at 102. Well, what's 102 minus 80? 22 billion. How much do we need to eliminate all property taxes for school funding, all essential service, for everything? 21 billion. Oh my God, we got 1 billion left over. All we got to do is, instead of them being greedy and increasing everything, the everything or the spending more than inflation, okay, by 5% a year, why didn't they, if they only take the 3%, we'd have enough money. So again, we're not even asking them to go to pre-COVID, because they go, well, we're going to go to pre-COVID values or pre-COVID taxes, right? Well, here's the thing. To do that, the values have to be set at pre-COVID, okay? Which means your revenue has to be set at pre-COVID. So if you're going to do that, you have to spend at pre-COVID. So what I'm saying is this, okay? The money is there because they don't have, again, a revenue problem. They have a spending problem, okay? They should only have an $80 billion budget with inflation. They've got a $102 billion budget. They got $22 billion more than they need. They need to give that back to the people, pay for all our property taxes, and call it a day. That's it. No non-negotiable.
There you go.
Yeah, Joe, our listener, Stuart Motes, was absolutely correct when he said the elimination of the income tax has benefited the rich. And I completely agree with that. And that's what they want to do.
1.36 billion is what they gave by that 0.5% of tax cut to the higher donor base. Okay, those making over $100,000 a year got that 0.5%. And by the way, those making $100,000, the state tax was 1.74%. I mean 2.74%. Now it went up to 2.75%. So everyone under 100,000 got an increase of even though it was 0.01, still it went up. Okay, and who benefited again? The higher wage earners. And this is where our problem is. They keep cutting. If we kept the 9%, and that's, I guess, Amy Acton, she wants to raise the income tax on the higher wage earners. That's great. Now, if she would say and pay for the schools totally and eliminate the school funding on everyone's property tax bill, I think she'd get everybody's vote. And I don't understand why Ramaswamy doesn't do that, okay? And I mentioned it to him. If the state follows the rules, follows the law, and takes care of the school funding, and I even mentioned them because then if the state is funding the school, he can do his reform. He can reform them because I told him, I says, they say we have local control. We have no local control. And you have no control because you have no skin in the game, I told him. Right to his face. I go, if the state is paying for the schools, now you can fix the schools. Okay?
Exactly. I agree with you.
Unfortunately, I'm sad to say that 2 of the 5 founders who initiated this petition are from my county. I know these people, and I've talked with them about this issue, and I've said, who's going to replace the $24 billion that is collected around the state? And their answer astounded me.
What was it?
The answer was, well, you guys in Columbus will have to figure that out.
Well, of course.
Brian.
How dare we say that they've got to do their job? Serino said to me, Brian, it's irresponsible of you to abolish property taxes while you, Brian Massey, having the answer of how to totally restructure the Ohio budget. It's just, Jerry, I said to you when you kicked me out of that meeting with the Visitors Bureau, I said, are you sure you want to go down this path with me, Jerry? And now, Jerry, you tell me that if a senior can't afford their property taxes, they've got to sell their home and move into an apartment. Jerry, that's cold and callous, and it's not acceptable, and we're going to continue to expose you for what you are. And if come October, when the rooster goes to court, and if the rooster beats you in court, and then they're gonna sue you, Jerry, you're gonna have some real problems because what you did, Senator Serino, by engaging the Kirtland Police Department to file charges against the rooster down in Columbus, and then your sitting judge, the Willoughby judge, municipal court, Marissa Carnaccio, she issued a warrant and had the State Highway Patrol arrest that gentleman known as the Rooster in the state capitol. That's what they do in communist countries.
That we don't have enough taxes, property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes, marijuana taxes, lottery, and fees. Ohio is one of the highest tax states in the union. There's plenty of money. To your own words, the money is there. It comes down to our priorities.
truer words were never spoken. There's plenty of money. Over $100 billion budget. There's plenty of money there. So start doging it. So Jerry Serino, if you want to know, start doging. I mean, we're giving you suggestions, and at the very least, and here's the thing, and then I'll get you guys' comments, we'll wrap it up. But at the very least, get rid of the property taxes on our primary residence. Or at the very, very, very least, get rid of the school property tax funding. For me in Cleveland Heights, it's like 72% of my property tax. Get rid of that. Have the state take over the school system. Please. These are some options that are available, so get working on it. There's options, and we don't have to raise the sales tax to 20%. Like somebody else that we know kind of said that we had to do here. This guy here, we don't need to raise it 20%. All right. Any last thoughts, Brian? We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, the other thing I'll tell Senator Serino, why don't you start with zero-based budgeting, buddy? Really. Instead of starting with incremental budgeting, we start with the current budget and you go up. That is what's causing the problems. No one is taking an approach of zero-based budgeting and justifying every dollar that is spent from the citizens. You cannot continue to push these seniors out of their homes, and you cannot steal the American dream from the younger generations. That, Senator Serino, is on you.
All right. Hey, guys, John Mara, Mayor of Timberlake, thank you for doing a great job tonight. Brian, thank you. And we're going to get out of here.
Thanks,
you guys
John.
take care, man.
Thanks, John.
Have a good night. See you later.